Okay, let's get started. Welcome to our event this evening. For those of you who are joining for the first time, welcome. My name's Faith and I'm a software developer at Sky. And I'm also a volunteer for Coding Black Females. And Coding Black Females is a community for Black women who are in the tech industry or who are looking to break into the tech industry. So we've got a number of online communities on Slack, WhatsApp, and Discord. We also run online events like this one. And we also have a couple of other things going on at the moment. So we have our podcast, which is available on Spotify, where you'll be able to hear back our events that we've been having on Zoom. And you can also listen back to interviews that we've had with members of our community. We also have our Visible in Tech campaign going on at the moment that you may have seen on our social media pages, where we're showcasing Black women in tech and listing their stories. And also, if you live in the West Midlands, very excitingly, we're going to be running a 30-week free part-time coding bootcamp, which begins in August. So if you are based in the West Midlands and would like to apply, please do see the link, which I'm going to post to the chat in a minute. So on to today's event, Tech Times Motherhood. We're going to be discussing what it's like to have caring responsibilities while being in tech or looking to break into tech. And this is not a discussion just for mothers. It applies to you if you perhaps care for an elderly relative, or you look after siblings, or if you have colleagues or friends in those situations. I wanted to put on this event today because it's not a topic that I've seen being talked about in the tech space, or even more widely. And parenthood and care responsibilities is something that disproportionately falls to women. So it's something that I wanted to talk about today. With that said, we have four amazing speakers tonight. Adana, who I think is trying to connect, so we'll hear from her later, Angela, Ethel, and Talia. These ladies are all in different stages of their tech journeys and all in different stages of their motherhood journeys, so hopefully we can have a really fruitful discussion tonight. So the format will be as follows. Firstly, we're going to meet each of our speakers and learn a little bit more about them and their stories. And then we're going to go into a panel discussion, and then there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions. So if you're listening to us on Zoom, then you can use the question and answer feature down below. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can use the comment box there, and we'll ask the speakers your questions. So let's get into it. Like I said, we're going to learn a bit more about our speakers. So Ethel, would you like to go first?
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name's Ethel. So I'm a mother of two. I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so my hands are pretty full at the moment. I used to work for TfL for 3 years before transitioning into tech. So it was a full-time job I was doing where I wasn't really getting much satisfaction from the role. I wanted something more challenging. And through researching and looking into other avenues, I came across software development. I did try to go down the path of teaching myself, and I felt like I needed a bit more structure, especially having kids around. It's really difficult to find time to learn. So I decided to go and enroll in Makers Academy Bootcamp. I did that for 3 months last year and graduated in November. And I landed my first junior full stack developer role with a company called ClearScore. And I got that literally 2 weeks after finishing, and I've been there since January. So that's been my journey into tech so far. And I'm currently still learning a lot, still finding the time to develop my skills and just sort of grow in my role so that I can be the best developer that I can be for my career. So yeah, that's my journey so far.
Sorry, I'm on mute. How about you, Talia?
Hi, yes, I'm Talia. At the moment, I'm a senior data product manager at Sky. I've been in tech in a data capacity for the last, about 20 years now. I'm a mum to 3 boys, 16, 12, and 3. So got my hands full on different levels. I started out my role in tech, or I've always been in the data sort of sector. Started out as a marketing analyst, as I said, 20 odd years ago. gone predominantly into data analytics and business intelligence. Yeah, and at the moment actually transitioning out of the corporate world to start up my own consultancy around people analytics. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And Angela?
Hey everyone, I'm Angela. I've been in tech for the last 3 years. I was a pastry chef for about 10 years before that. Kind of realised that job, I mean, I just had no time for myself in that job and no chance of really progressing, plus having a family. So I was looking to other careers and started coding as a hobby and saw that then as a career change. I went to General Assembly Bootcamp to do a 3-month course, which I managed to pay for using opportunity funding, the Opportunity Fund, which is actually a kind of scholarship program for people from minority backgrounds. So that's how I got into that. So did that, landed my first role straight out of that, and as a full stack software engineer, where I kind of have been for the last 3 years. I have one child who is a baby. She's 6 months old, so I'm currently on maternity leave. And yeah, that's me, I think.
Great. I think Adana, are you here? I can see you.
Hi.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're perfectly on time. So do you want to give an introduction to yourself?
Of course. I have a presentation to share, actually.
Okay, we can.
If you bear with me. Sorry, hold on. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yep. So hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. I had some tech issues, of course. So my name is Adana Achonu, and I'm a QA analyst at FlexTrade. Thank you to Faith and Charlene for having me here today. Really appreciate it. So a bit about me. I have a background in sciences. I studied biology, chemistry, physics, and IT, but I didn't pass any of my science subjects, but I did do well in my IT subjects. I've got a degree in business information systems, and I have around 8 years experience in the software testing industry, and I got into testing based upon the fact that after uni there's such a rush to get a job and it can be quite stressful. So I remember just applying to anything that involved tech or software in some kind of way, and I got my first role. So from there, that's led to 8 years. I'm currently a QA analyst at FlexTrade, and I'm the creator of Mama Code It. I started this community to find other mothers who were at the start or middle of their coding journey, who are picking up new skills, be it HTML, CSS, Python, Java. So I wanted to find other mothers who were doing the same and having commitments as well. And at the moment, I'm studying JavaScript from Free Code Camp, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's very popular, and it's going so far so good. I'm on recursion, which is quite a tough topic, so hopefully I get through it. And just going into my role as a QA, what does it involve? And just to say that there are many different role titles for this position. You can have software tester, manual tester, application tester, but essentially it's testing applications to make sure that they function as intended. So are they doing what is required, or are they acting differently? For example, if you have a requirement that is to test once, if I click this button, it should show a picture of a cat, for example. Basic example, I know. And if that works, that's great. But what if it doesn't work? And from there, you need to raise defects and bugs and report back to the developers or the PM or BAs to get it resolved. And you also, so you can also do automation testing as well, which is making use of programming languages, scripting languages such as JavaScript, Java, Python, so you can execute tests much quicker instead of doing it manually. But there's always a place for manual testing. It doesn't overcome doing manual tests. It's mainly for repetitive test automation. And typically for a QA role, you're collaborating with a lot of people, PMs, BAs, other testers, implementation analysts, all sorts. And I guess the skills that are really important are having attention to detail and making sure you can spot errors and communicate that effectively to the wider team, and having a curiosity mindset. So making sure you always go deeper, asking more questions, and really getting down to the answers, really. And also what I love especially is having a test to break attitude. I think that's the fun part of testing something, but really going to really pushing it to see how it can break and what makes it break. Excuse me. And yeah, a bit about my motherhood journey. So I have a son who is 2 years old, and I remember when he was born, it was really overwhelming. You're just holding this baby and you don't know what to do. And I think day by day, you learn and you get stronger, and it gets easier. So I had him at a point where I was about 5 years into my career in testing, and I actually am expecting another baby in July, which will be very fun. So it's a new chapter in my life, which is very exciting. But yeah, a bit scary as well. Yeah, and that's me, Faith.
Amazing. So thank you to our speakers for sharing a bit more about them. So now we're going to jump into like a panel discussion. So speakers, just jump in if you have something to say, talk as much as you want or as little as you want. So the first question, so caring for another person takes time, both physically and also it takes a lot of mental capacity as well, like remembering to do X, knowing to do Y. So how do you actually find the time to learn new skills or maintain skills, or can you even find the time to do that? I know, Ethel, you mentioned time was kind of the most important thing for you. I guess, do you want to elaborate more?
I think for me, it's been, okay, so for my journey, like transitioning into tech, going to boot camp and trying to self-study, it was hard then because it was like finding the time to learn and then also feeling guilty that you're spending too much time learning and not giving the kids the attention they need. So for me, what I tend to try and do now is that like I try and give myself time while I'm at work and use that to focus on new skills that I'm learning. Maybe I'd stay an extra hour late if possible, or like my manager's aware and I've made sure I've included whatever it is I'm learning aside from my work into my personal development plan, so that I can set time during my working day to do work in work, so that when I come home, it's just time to focus on the kids and I'm not still in like work mode and learn. It is really tricky to find the balance, especially when you're so eager to learn something that you're passionate about. Like you just want to always be in the books or be on your computer coding. And it's tricky, but at the same time, they also require time as well. So it's just, that's how I've managed to find the balance now. With when I was doing the boot camp as well, I just had to utilize my support systems around me. So like family, like if they could take the kids for a couple of hours so I could study and learn, then I'd do that as well. Now, as I said, I just try and fit it into my working day and give myself an extra hour or two to focus on whatever it is I'm learning. And if I don't get the chance to do it, I don't beat myself up about it, because it's okay.
Talia, you've been in the business for a long time. You've got your own consultancy now as well. So how did you find the time to do all that?
So I think what I've done is slightly different. I allocate myself 2 hours every night So once the kids are in bed, well, the older one kind of looks after himself now anyway, but once the younger ones are in bed, say about 8:30, I then dedicate those 2 hours, Monday to Friday only. So weekends I spend with the kids and with my partner. So I do that, those 2 hours, whether I'm learning something new or working on my consultancy, or I also run like an online community for women as well. I'm a STEM ambassador as well, and a school governor. So I try those 2 hours, that's where I trade off my time, and everything else I try and keep, I am very strict with myself. When work is finished, it's finished. I don't look at my phone, I don't open up my laptop until 8:30, and then I can start again.
Yeah. Now, Danny, you're learning to code. So how do you find the time?
So it's typically when my son is sleeping, because that's the only time I get a good stretch of time to really dig deep and go into it, or when he naps, but that's rarely ever happening. But also it's making sure I can steal bits of time here and there. So maybe if he's, put on TV in the background and have a little 30 minutes where I can go into something. But typically, most days, it's in the nighttime when he's asleep, at least an hour or two, or it's mornings, but they're so rare. If I can get up early enough to get myself together, but it's really such a hard task when you have small kids. So but it's also about making the time, making a conscious effort to say, I'm going to do this, and you do find a way. Even though it takes a lot more effort, but you know that you have to do it because that's the only time you have in the day.
Angela, do you have anything to add?
Me having I'm fairly new, so 6 months, and we run on her routine for most of the time, or we have done for most of the time. It's only been the last maybe 2 months that she's taking longer naps, so I kind of am the same as Adana, where I've had to just find time during naps, if they happen, when they happen, in the evenings. But also what's helped me is, in a way, is that I had a couple of projects I was doing before I went on to maternity, and that has kind of given me the motivation to actually do them now. I feel like if I kind of had nothing in my mind of what I was particularly wanting to do, I wouldn't be spurred on. It's also helped by the fact that I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to my job that I was at as well. So I kind of have the push there to kind of keep going and look for something else by like pulling up my skills now and doing more.
So in your organizations that you're in, like either currently or previously, do you feel supported with regards to your caring responsibilities? And has there been something, whether it's a policy or a kind of an action or like a manager, that has particularly helped you? I guess anyone can jump in.
So for me, I actually am in a same-sex relationship, so I actually had to go to a clinic to have a baby, which meant loads of time off randomly at random points. I didn't know when I would have to have appointments, so it was kind of a difficult thing to deal with, in that I had to tell somebody that was the case of what was going on, whilst also wanting to be discreet and not let everybody know my business and what was happening and when it was happening. So luckily my line manager was who is my CCO as well, I'm part of a very small team, was very accommodating for that, and just kind of said, do what you need to do when you need to do it, don't worry about it too much. One thing that I did do is, when I handed in my maternity certificate, I asked to renegotiate my contract on coming back and my work schedule on coming back, so I made sure that was kind of in line with what I wanted. And they didn't actually have a maternity policy in place when I started, because it was a very small startup. Yeah, so at the beginning, when I kind of said I was pregnant, they told me basically I wouldn't get anything, and I went, well, as in I'd get statutory and statutory alone. So I went away and I kind of did a bit of my own research of what other companies are offering, and came back and kind of said, this is what I've seen elsewhere, kind of, can we negotiate and see what the company is able to provide for me? And they actually came back with a better policy after that. So that was really important for me to do.
Has anyone else had a particularly supportive organization?
I have. At first, do you know what? It's going to sound bad, but at first I kind of thought it was my manager trying to catch me out or make me slip up. So obviously I've just started my role in January, and we every 2 weeks in the company, you're meant to have a one-to-one with your manager. And every time before we even go into anything, like, how's the kids? How are things going? How are you managing and coping with work and kids at the same time? Like, he always wants to make sure that I'm okay and that work life and home life is balanced equally and I'm not struggling. He also suggests bringing them into the office, and he's like, it's fine, it's not a problem, people do it here. Don't feel like you have to shy away from, you know, bringing your kids in if you have to, if you've got issues with childcare. Like, it's fine, we can get them pen and paper, they can scribble, they can play on my desk, I'm fine. Like, he's just so open to just helping in any way that he can so that I'm comfortable and I'm able to continue working, and it's not like sort of like a barrier for me in terms of my progress. So I think that's sort of set the bar high for me, and in the future with whatever companies I go for, I feel like I'm going to make sure that they also like have things in place, but also accommodate the fact that I've got kids and it don't make me feel, you know, a way about it.
Yeah. I've seen it change quite a lot actually over the 20 years. So when I first went on maternity leave, there was hardly any support. You know, there was, especially from managers and stuff, even though some of the companies had those policies in place, it was all down to what your manager as an individual was like. Whereas now, obviously, with working with Sky, if I have to drop everything and go and pick my little one up from nursery because the nursery's called and said, you know, he's not well or anything, there is that understanding, and it relieves a lot of stress. I think definitely having that support and knowing that you have those options, it's not going to be frowned upon, it's not going to impact you negatively. So yeah, it's been a good change.
Adana, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think what really helps, as everyone has said, is about having a manager who understands and who has kids and they can just relate. And I feel, you know, it's always nice to have someone who's in the same position and understands that you've got kids at nursery or kids get sick, and it just makes life so easier. But also for myself, being confident and saying, yes, I do have children and I need to see to them if they get sick or whatever it is, or appointments. And typically women are the ones who are going to, you know, doctor's appointments and kids shows or whatever it is. So it's just nice having someone that understands that, and also having flexibility, not having to feel like you need to be there 8 hours between 9 and 5. Maybe it's that you can work a bit earlier or work a bit later. So for the most part, my organizations that I've worked in have been okay with it. Yeah.
And are there any kind of challenges that still remain? I'm pretty sure it won't be still perfect. I mean, it's very much a male-dominated industry. Not that men can't have children, but yes, as we said, it disproportionately falls to women. So are there any challenges that still remain, or not even necessarily in your current organizations, but that you've seen previously that you would like changed? Ethel's smiling, so I'm going to go to Ethel.
I feel like, okay, if I think about previous roles that I've had and the way things have been in terms of me with kids, like I've always found it difficult, like if there's an issue at home or if my child's sick, to let my manager know that, look, I need to go. Like I feel guilty for doing that. And I feel like companies and managers should do their best to make everyone feel comfortable, like parents to feel comfortable that like if there's an issue at home, they need to tend to it. They shouldn't find it difficult to just, you know, speak up and say something. And I know in previous roles, I've felt like I can't, like I don't want to call in and say my child's sick, or I don't want to miss a day of work because I feel bad that I'm doing that, or they will make me feel bad, or the tone I will receive on the other end of the line will just not be welcoming. So I feel like just maybe it boils down to individuals and managers, and that maybe they need to just show a bit of like care and concern and not make the person feel uncomfortable in having childcare issues or having any issues at home with their child, or just even tending to kids in general.
I agree with that, definitely.
I'm sure, Talia, you've maybe seen some not so nice situations, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think actually I suppose the saddest thing was having female managers that weren't supportive. I actually had more male managers that were supportive than female managers. Some of them were single, so well, didn't have children, and even to the point, not necessarily even phoning in and saying my child's sick, but having to leave the office at a certain time to do the nursery pickup. I once worked in an organization where, my manager made a habit of working late, perhaps because she had the freedom to do so. But although it wasn't said, nothing was particularly said, I was made to feel that by me leaving the office at 5 on the dot was kind of like I wasn't putting enough effort in, or enough, being dedicated enough to my role. And it's one thing that I was very conscious of when I became a manager and when I was heading up a department, in the sense that actually I see the opposite. If somebody's having to consistently work late, then there's something wrong from a manager's perspective, and they should be able, regardless of whether you've got caring responsibilities or not, you should be able to leave the office on time and have a life outside of work. So it's something I've definitely been very conscious of when I've managed people who've been head of department, because of those experiences that I had sort of earlier on in my career.
And how about you, Angela? Do you have anything to add?
I think like one thing that I have found more difficult is, although my line manager was really supportive on some things, they weren't really able to answer many questions about what would happen when I come back. So with having such a small team, we tend to work on features individually, unless it's a really big feature and we all kind of like chip in as engineers. So just as a bit of background, when I left, there was only 3 of us as engineers. So we're all working on individual features. And for me, what the worry was if I come back part-time, how are we going to do that? If we're a startup, we need cadence, we need things actually being sent out all the time. How am I going to hold a feature to myself and deliver that within a time frame that's like good for the company? And unfortunately, he really wasn't able to answer that, and I kind of got told to wait and see. We'll wait and see what happens. So I think things like that I found a bit difficult in kind of knowing how to return, and as well like looking for part-time roles versus contracting and everything else. Like I really haven't been able to see any part-time roles where I would be an employee at a company. It's looking like I'm going to have to be a contractor, which is something that I kind of wanted to do in the future. But as a mid-level engineer, I kind of wanted to stay on the full, like as a full employee for as long as possible. Well, not as long as possible, but just be able to kind of get a bit more mentorship where I needed it, rather than kind of feel like I'm on my own in it. So yeah.
Are you doing a lot of this research yourself, or is your kind of company doing the work as well?
I've had to do quite a lot of it myself. They've not been like I said, with the maternity policy and stuff, it was me that kind of went away and came back with some ideas of what other companies were doing. And I'm kind of being seen as the person who's like the poster child for it at the moment, which is a little bit difficult, just because they're just kind of feeling their way and seeing what works. And yeah, like I said, for me, it's just that kind of lack of knowledge of what they actually wanted out of me. They know that they want me back, but they're not sure how and in what capacity. And that's kind of been a bit of a worry before I went away.
And Adana, you started Mama Code It, so I guess there must have been a kind of a gap for mothers in particular who are learning to code. Do you want to kind of elaborate on what you think that gap was? You're on mute, by the way.
Thank you. I think it was just the fact that I knew there were women out there who were mothers and coding, but I couldn't find them. And I just thought, well, there must be some other women who are looking to gain skills and who need support, because it is really, really hard, especially looking after little kids and having to do extra study. And it's so easy just to, give it up and feel like, oh, it's not for me. So I felt like if there are other women who are doing this, and we can lean on each other and we can share our challenges, and it's okay to not have everything like put together, or it's okay not to, it's okay to run your own race, if you know what that means. Just don't get so obsessed about everyone else, like really ahead of you in their coding journey, which is quite easy to feel as though you're behind, but just taking our time. So it was mainly down to the fact that I wanted to see other women who are coding and how they've been doing it as well. And I think it's really important that we share stories and it can inspire so many other women to do the same, who might think that it's not for them, or maybe because of their background. That doesn't really matter. It's just open to all women. I think that answers the question.
Yeah, you did. No, you did.
Rambled on a bit.
So I've got another question. It might not apply to all of you, but I just wanted to ask, with regards to maternity leave or just taking leave off in general, in what is a quickly changing industry, what did it feel like to kind of leave the industry and then rejoin again? Were there any anxieties about coming back? I guess, Talia, you've had 3 maternity leaves, I guess.
Over various years, yeah. I think definitely, I mean, coming back, there was always an anxiety behind knowing whether I'd lose, because the tech market is such a fast moving market as well. Languages change so often, you know, there's a new language on that you're having to learn so often, that I thought that obviously I wasn't going to be able to study anything while I was on maternity leave. That I gave myself that time off. I was like, it's not going to happen. Especially that was the 3rd time round. I realized it's not feasible. So I think that was one of the main anxieties. And similar to Angela, it's also knowing how to come back and how to what support you're going to get when you do come back. And one of the things, one of the companies that I worked for where they were really supportive was doing keeping in touch days. So it sort of starts to get you back into the, you know, understanding what's happening with the business, understanding how you're going to fit back in once you do come back in, whether it's full-time or part-time. And obviously, you know, the onus is on the company to transition you back in. So I would put pressure on them to come up with a way for you to transition back into work in a very productive way. You know, you're not going to be the first person to go on maternity leave, and you're not going to be the last person to go on maternity leave. So if they haven't thought about it now, they should definitely be thinking about it fairly soon. Otherwise, they're cutting off a huge part of the market. But yeah, I think the main anxiety was losing touch with the technologies over that space of time, because I think with my last, I usually took between sort of 6 and 9 months maternity, which isn't necessarily long, but even in that space of time, it was understanding how fast the market moves, making sure that I could keep, you know, on track with all the new technologies and stuff like that.
Yes, Angela, you're currently on maternity leave. So you mentioned that you're looking at going part-time when you come back. Is there any other things you're kind of concerned about?
I kind of am concerned about keeping up with languages as well. Like was said before, like that everything's just changing so much, and even it's changing in the industry and within our own code base as well. At my company, we're a startup company, things change really, really quickly. Another concern that I have, which isn't to do necessarily with me being a parent, but might be to do with the support, is that we're still seeking funding. So who knows what's going to happen. Like, a lot of the team have kind of left already because they're not sure where funding is because of everything that's going on as well. It's really difficult to receive funding at the moment. I'm sure that investors aren't really prepared to put money into companies that they don't know if they're going to exist within a year. So that's been quite difficult. But I think that I'm looking forward to going back, and that's kind of the overall thing. So whether it's back to my company or another company or whatever, like, I will continue to want to learn. So the overall anxiety around going back isn't too high. It's not peaked too high, not yet anyway. Give me until a week before I was supposed to go back and I might be panicking.
I guess, Adana, you're soon to go on maternity leave? Or
yeah, that's correct. So I'm actually due to go in July, which I think maybe I should revise that date. It seems quite far, and I'm getting quite tired as well. But I remember when I had my first child, and I felt ready to go back. So I took around 7 months off, and I remember thinking, okay, this is enough. I need to just be in contact with other people. But I did feel as though, could I go back? You know, were my skills gone? You do have that anxiety. And I remember just being in that work environment, it took some time to get used to it again and just to feel confident in my skills, but that actually never left me. So I think this time round, I'm taking 9 months, and I want to go back, but I guess you never know because it's just such a surprise being in maternity leave, and you don't know how you'll feel. I can tell now that, okay, I'm fine to go back. It might take more time, it might be earlier. So yeah, it's just seeing how I feel at the end of it.
Ethel, do you have anything to add? I don't know if you had your maternity leave in tech or not.
Yeah, no, I had my 2 before I did the whole transition into tech. So my maternity leave experience was with my previous company and not within the tech industry. But it's good hearing everyone else's experience, because it is something that I think about, especially like the fact that I know I want to have more kids, and I always wonder, like, in the short time I've had my job, I feel like it goes so fast. Like, you're learning things nonstop. The whole business can just change direction, especially as you said, if you're in a startup. So it does always come into my head, like, if I was to go maternity leave, like, how would it be going back? Would I be able to cope? Would I feel like I'm too far behind, or would I not be able to catch up? But it's good to hear everyone else's experiences and to know that I'm not the only one that thinks like that. So yeah, it's reassuring hearing everyone else's viewpoints on it.
So I'm going to change kind of tact a little bit. My last question before we go into our audience questions is coding or technology kind of more generally something that you'll be actively encouraging your children to learn? Anyone can jump in.
I'm trying. I think, and one of the things that...
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I think one of the things that encouraged me to become a STEM ambassador and a school governor was that I'm not really that convinced in terms of how they teach technology at schools or computer science at schools. I think they lose a lot of interest at that level. And it's something that not a lot of kids want to pick up because it's still taught. I mean, I was going through my son, my oldest, was meant to be writing his GCSEs now. And he was failing miserably at his computer science. And I was like, both my partner and I are both in tech. So it was a bit of a kick in the teeth that he wasn't doing so well. But I think the main reason was they're still teaching computer science to the kids now how they did when I was at school, which was a very long time ago. And the world has moved on, and they're not making it interesting for the kids. So I've kind of jumped on board, as I said, as a STEM ambassador. So I go into schools and kind of try and encourage definitely more women or more girls to go into STEM subjects, one of them being tech and computer science, things like that, but also just generally the kids in general, by encouraging them, giving them some real world examples of how they can apply some of the stuff, or what it's like actually working in tech compared to learning computer science at school. So yeah, I'm trying, as I said. I mean, most of the kids are very tech. My 3-year-old can pretty much, navigate the whole Netflix menu and everything like that by himself. So I think they've definitely got the interest there, and the definitely the skill sets, natural skill sets in them. It's just, I think there needs to be a revamp of how kids are engaged with computer science and coding in specifically. So I think it's encouraging them to do stuff outside of school. So there's loads of like coding camps, and I know Sky used to have quite a few coding camps over the summer holidays, which kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone in the sense of I didn't have to worry about childcare. But definitely trying to get that more visible so that parents do know, they don't rely on schools just to teach that side of technology, that they're looking broader as well.
Ethel, are you teaching your children how to code as well?
It's something I've thought about, definitely. Like, I'd love my kids to get into coding. My 4-year-old, similar to Taj's, like, she whizzes through the iPhone, and you don't, like, no one's taught her how to use it. Like, kids are just tech savvy. Like, they come out born knowing it all already. Yeah, it's definitely something I'm like willing to get my kids into. For me, growing up, I wasn't exposed. It wasn't even on our curriculum, I don't think, in secondary school or in college, like computer science. So for me, it was like, it wasn't something that I felt was accessible unless I had studied it in uni. So I would love for my kids to be exposed to it from early, and then if they are really interested, they could go down that path. I do try and, like, all my friends who have kids, I'm always sharing things with them. Like, I want everyone to encourage their kids to look into it, try it out and see how it is. If you like it, then even better. Like, it's a career path that you can go down. So yeah, I will be. Yeah,
I remember in ICT we just made like PowerPoint presentations or Word documents, but I think it's still the same, which is quite worrying. How about you, Angela?
Yeah, I mean, there's like loads of kind of games and stuff out there, which I would possibly be encouraging her to do. This is all kind of depending on whether or not she finds an interest in it, but I would love her to. Both myself and my partner are both in tech as well. I'm obviously a software engineer, my partner's a data scientist. So it is something that I would like her to do. I don't know how or what, I don't know what the future looks like into getting into tech. Obviously everything's kind of changed quite a lot now, so I don't know whether I would be massively encouraging of going to computer science route, especially with university fees being as high as they are. Like, I mean, if you can do a 3-month course or self-teach yourself and get into it, like, you know, that's great. But also university is great for that experience as well, for its own experiences of going away from home and doing your own thing. So you know, if she shows an interest, I'd definitely be encouraging her.
Yeah, I remember going to a talk, I can't remember who gave it, but the woman was saying how she doesn't let she had 2 daughters and she doesn't let them play with dolls or any kind of quintessentially girly things. Like, she makes them like solve problems, she gives them Lego to play with, so that you don't even have to be teaching them actively to code. It may be just like problem solving puzzles or games or anything like that. I guess, Adana, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with everything. I think in this digital age now, I think it would be a crime not to. But again, it's whether my son will have the interest and just supporting what he wants, but him being exposed cannot hurt at all. And the skills, I mean, it's good for them to have skills early. To think I was coding when I was in school, or even when I was in my late teens, it's kind of crazy that he'll be coding when he's like a little child. So, and as I think Ethel said about my son, he just gets the iPhone and he's like whizzing around it, deleting apps, putting stuff in folders. I'm like, how are you doing this? It's just like a duck to water. It's just so funny. But yeah, definitely encouraging him.
Amazing. So we can get into some questions from the audience now. So just let us know what your question is, or I think you can raise your hand and I'll figure out how to unmute you if you just want to kind of share something. So our first question is, I guess now we're in lockdown, how has working from home been for you? How understanding and accommodating has your work been in understanding that work has come home, so your attention is split between being an employee and a parent? Does anyone want to go?
I guess I'm kind of leading on that. If my 3-year-old decides to run in while I'm on a conference call, you know, there's not a lot I can do about it. It's like, I think it's more the guilt factor than, I think other people are very understanding, unless they're really mean. But I recall our sort of chief data officer was holding a conference call with the whole of our department, which is like over, I think, about 150 people. And clearly her kids were doing something in the background that she didn't approve of, but she forgot to put herself on mute and she screamed. I think we all sat up and paid attention, put it that way. But you know, I think all of us that have kids, or even, you know, it's pets, anything that is going to distract you when you're trying to work and can't control your environment 100%. I think we're all very understanding in the sense of, yeah, we've all been there, we know what it's like. So I think it's on everybody to be as understanding as they can be. It's challenging, definitely.
Yeah, for me, it's been a struggle, a big struggle, mainly because they're at an age where they constantly need to be engaged in something. Like, I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and the questions, like, their attention is not, like, they can't concentrate on something for long. And I'm also trying to do like my stand-up and then work on tickets, and then at the same time trying to homeschool and do the Joe Wicks exercise in the morning, and like I'm just trying to balance it all, and it's been really hard, especially because normally I'd have like family who support, and I'd probably take my kids over to my mom or like my in-laws, and I can't do that now because of the whole like COVID situation. So I've been finding it really difficult. So I have like started working late, so during the day I do the stand-ups. My kids are always in my stand-ups, like everyone knows the kids are always, they chime in, like it's normal now, like as you said, everyone accommodates. But I found that I now have to sort of split my day where I'm doing the homeschooling, squeezing a bit of work where I can, but I'm actually fully focusing on my work in the evening now. So when they're going to sleep or winding down, that's when I'm able to concentrate and actually get stuff done, so that the next morning I don't feel guilty in morning stand-up, like, oh, I wasn't able to get anything done because the kids, and like I don't know, there's that guilt there as well. Like, I don't want them to think I'm not doing anything at home as well. Even though they say it's okay, we understand. It's like in the back of my mind, like, no, you don't. Like, I don't want to make them feel like I'm not being productive. So yeah, it's been a struggle for me. I'm still trying to figure it out.
I completely agree. For me as well, it's been very difficult, having a kid at the background saying bye to someone in a conference call, and just knowing that, okay, actually I have this is it. I can't send him away. And as you said about working later, it's like my days have gone a lot later now, because in the day, like, it's just hard to split yourself into managing your child. He needs to eat, he needs to be entertained, and you have to get work done, and it's just a constant juggle. And it's either you wake up very early when he's still sleeping, but he might wake up as well as a surprise, or work so late where you have time just to really focus and hone in. So I just think it's always like a juggling act, and just doing the best you can. I don't feel so guilty or beat yourself up for it, because it's really difficult.
I guess, Angela, you're not working technically, but you're still locked in. How has it been for you?
It was actually all right until more recently. What's been the most difficult thing is, like everyone said, like not really getting to see everybody else. I mean, it's difficult for everyone, but a baby's life or a baby changes so much within the first year. And so we actually went for a socially distanced walk with one of my in-laws today, which is the first time that they've seen her in 3 months, and she's just changed so much in that time. She was 3 months old then, she's 6 months now. So that's been difficult, not to get everybody, like, it's part of being a new mum, is having everybody gush over your baby and how amazing they are. So I am missing out on that a little bit. And also she started to, there's like a few bits on TV. CBeebies have a program called the Baby Club, which I will show her every now and again, because we don't get to go into any baby groups. And that's really, it's nice as something there, but it's actually really sad for me to watch, because she really loves it. She's really interactive with it. And so I actually get quite emotional when we watch it, just because I don't really get to take her to any of those groups. And to be honest, she's probably going to miss out on all of that, because I don't see that coming up anytime soon. But I am lucky in that my work is quite flexible. So I think if I was at work at the moment, I think they would be a lot more flexible about me working as and when I could. My CCO actually has 3 young children in a 2-bedroom flat. So I'm sure it's difficult at the moment. So I think that people would be quite lenient around it. I guess that's a company by company and manager by manager basis.
I think the one word I've heard from the most during this talk is guilt. So I'm going to go on to Deanna's question. She said, I think one of the key challenges I found being a mum in tech is the emotional guilt that you can feel at times, being torn between deadlines, ensuring you're able to be present in your children's lives. How would you say you've been able to look after your mental well-being, or how do you manage the guilt? I guess, Ethel, you've been mentioning guilt a lot.
I think for me, how I've been managing it is that I just have to keep reminding myself that I don't know, I kind of always feel like the kids can pick up on your energy, and if you let the guilt show, they pick up on that. So I always try and, like, the little time I do have to spend with them, I just make sure I make the most of it, make sure that they get a lot of time with me and they have fun. I try to make sure that once I'm done with work, it's focused on them. And I also just have to keep reminding myself that I'm not the only one experiencing this, and it is normal to experience this. And it's just part of being a mom. I've just taken it as that's just how it is being a mum. Like, you're always going to feel some sort of guilt, like whether it's now and to do with your career, or maybe you weren't able to make it to the school play or something. You're going to feel guilt at some point, but it's more about how you make up for that. And yeah, so I just feel like that's how I tend to remind myself that, like, it's not the end of the world. It will be okay. And sometimes, even especially during the period of me doing the boot camp, I kind of saw it as like, it's just a period of time that I'm spending away from the kids. And I saw it kind of like as a sacrifice. At this present moment, I can't spend as much time with them as I'd like. But once I'm in the role and once things are flowing and going how they should, I'll have more than enough time to spend with them. And for even speaking about the whole lockdown thing, even though I've been finding it hard and struggling with managing work, I'm really enjoying spending more time with them. Like, kids just grow so quickly, and it's made me realize that when they're at nursery, like, you miss so much, and I'm just trying to just basically enjoy the time at home with them as much as I can, even if they make me like stressed or I'm just shouting all the time. I'd rather do that 10 times over than miss out on spending time with them. So I'm just, yeah, it's a hard one, but it comes with being a mum, I guess.
How is everyone else managing their guilt? Or are they not managing it?
I think for me, it's realizing quite probably 2 kids in that there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's just choices. And sometimes, and whatever choice you're going to make is going to make you feel guilty. So you're either going to feel guilty that you're not doing the stuff you think you should be doing at work, and you're going to feel guilty for not doing the stuff you should think you should be doing with the kids. And I think it's just being kind to yourself and realizing that you can't do everything. You're not superwoman. And factoring in some you time as well. You're more than just a mum or a whatever your job title is, that you do need to also be centered and be okay with yourself, because as you mentioned, mental health is really important, because otherwise both sides suffer, both the kids and your role. So I think it's just understanding that it's compromise, work-life compromises, and it's just juggling compromises continuously, and being okay with that. So I think that's what's worked for me now.
Angela and Adana, do you have anything to say, or can go on to the next question?
Yeah, what the lady said, it's knowing that also what you're doing is for them, and making it positive that what I'm doing, and if I'm at work, it's for their benefit as well. But understanding when you do have time, you are fully focused on them, like all attention is on them. And again, it's something you have to manage. It never goes away. Yeah, it's better, maybe some first, but yeah, it comes with being a mom. And I think you just have to do the best you can and try and make time for your kids when you're like, be engaged with them when you do have the time. That's how I manage it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any guilt yet, but I'm going to take for when I do go back to
Okay, I'll go on to the next question. So a lot of you said that you had supportive managers. Do you have any advice for someone who kind of doesn't have a supportive manager about what they can do?
I mean, I worked in a really small team, and we don't really have HR or anything, but I guess HR is there in a way to help you out with a little bit of that as well. So you are entitled to have support. they have to help you. They can't just they can't penalize you for having children. So just fight for yourself. There is some, especially if you work for a bigger company, there'll be someone there, and even a smaller company, there'll be a way to kind of get through to like at least someone and let them say what's going on. For me, I was lucky enough, I have one-on-ones weekly, and that was a place where I would kind of voice my concerns. And if it wasn't kind of thinking in immediately, I would drill it every week. It's like a month before they gave me maternity policy, and I was just constantly hammering them, asking them when it was going to happen. Will I be involved in discussions? It wasn't easy, and it was sometimes really awkward. But I think it was just really important to kind of do that.
Does anyone else have anything to add, or I can move on? Okay, so a question from Patience. She says, when the lockdown is over, whenever that will be, is there anything that you would like to change in terms of how you work to balance with looking after the kids and your mental health? Is there anything you would like employees to do differently to support parents?
I think definitely more flexibility. We've kind of proved that it works. So any excuse, in terms of you have to be at your desk for 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday, won't hold any water anymore, because the whole world literally has had to change the way they work. And I don't think any company that's worth its weight can go back to the old way of saying you have to be in the office 5 days a week for 8 hours. I just don't see it being a reality. And I think they'll probably suffer if they did have that stance, because as I said, it applies for anybody, whether you've got kids or caring responsibilities or not. Everybody wants a work-life balance, or being able to be flexible with their time. And I think I think productivity, apart from the first couple of weeks when nobody knew what the hell they were doing and Zoom meetings went to pot, I think everybody's proved that. I don't think productivity has gone down by much. I know with my team it hasn't at all. And that's allowing people to be flexible and trusting people as well. I think a huge deal of trust has come into it now, that companies have to recognize that they have to trust their employees to deliver.
Does anyone else have any changes they would like to see implemented? It's going perfectly then.
I kind of agree. Like obviously I'm not working at the moment, but my partner working from home has actually been a massive help to me having a newborn, well, a little baby, and also for their relationship as well. Like my partner would have been, they're quite strict with stand up, so they have like a stand up at 9 o'clock in the morning and they're expected to be there. And she normally wouldn't get home until past 7, and even then it's quite early. There's quite a late work culture there as well. But luckily my partner was like, Beth was always very good at being like, no, I'm going home now, but she still wouldn't be home until 7, which with a young child, I mean, they're in bed by 7, all the help that I need is gone, like there's no one there. So I've been really appreciative of having somebody at home just to help with lunch times and stuff like that, and bath time, and all the difficult things happen during the day. So I think that I'll be trying to encourage her to push for those kind of things when she goes back to work as well.
I guess this next question may be more for Ethel and Dana. Mrs. MA said, I'm a new mum currently on mat leave learning how to code. Having my daughter and coronavirus has made me rethink my career. So currently doing a Udemy course and planning to transition into tech. Do you have any advice on how to tap into the community as I'm learning online and live outside of London? Also, how did you decide on the first language that you learned?
In terms of tapping into the community, social media is your best friend, literally. Like for me, transitioning into tech, I knew no one working in the industry personally. I reached out to people on Instagram, on Twitter, coding Black females. I breathe and sleep coding Black females. There's a lot of communities out there that you can find support systems, and they're there to help you through the journey. There's people that have also been through it before you. So I'd say make use of social media. I don't feel like, oh, I feel a bit weird reaching out to this person. Like everyone's just been so happy to help. That's my experience anyway with LinkedIn or Twitter or anything. Like I'm always in people's DMs. Hi, I've noticed that you do this. If there's any questions that I have, I'd ask. So I'd say definitely do that, because that really does help a lot. In terms of choosing my first language, before I did the bootcamp, I started off with Python, and I was using the Udemy course and Codecademy to teach myself. And I think for me, it's a bit different for everyone, because I was a bit impatient. I just wanted to get into the whole like software engineering quickly. So I ended up going down the bootcamp route, and we had to do Ruby and JavaScript for that. So I think in terms of deciding, it just sort of depends on the route you're trying to go down, what kind of software engineering you want to do, what interests you. Like look into what interests you. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there. Traversy Media is a really good one. He has detailed videos explaining the coding languages. Just research it and look into it and see what interests you more, and then use that as a guiding factor on what route you want to go down. But I'd say social media is your best friend. Meetup is a good one as well to find coding communities that you can go out to, especially being at home now when there's a lot of like events going on Zoom. There's things that I probably wouldn't be able to access, whereas now everything's online. You can do it now. Like they're sending out loads of invites to different events that you probably normally pay a lot of money for. Attend those and just listen to different people's experiences and reach out to people. If you listen to someone's talk that you found interesting, everyone's always happy to help. Just reach out to them. Like don't feel away, like just go for it.
How about for you, Adana?
Yeah, definitely what Ethel said. Twitter is a great place. There's this hashtag 100 Days of Codes, where people are, newbies to code, and they're just coding, and everyone is so willing to help you, and there's no judgment. And I think that's a good thing to have when you're learning and you're new. And there's no reason why you can't contact anybody for support. Yeah, I think Ethel said it already.
So I'm just going to lead the kind of a question that follows on. Somebody asked, are the coding camps the quickest way to learn to code? I guess, Ethel, you chose a boot camp, and Adana, you're teaching yourself. So what would you say?
I actually had a friend who did Makers Academy, and she, I think within at least 6 months, she had a role. So if you're willing, I imagine if you're willing to really pour everything into it, I guess it could be the quickest way. And since you're there on site, you know, day in, day out, you're coding, you've got supportive people around you, and that is, it can be quite intense. So if you are able to work in those circumstances in it, I guess that would be the fastest way. But of course, I'll let Ethel say, since she's actually done it, sorry.
I'd say it's one of the fastest ways, but it was very costly and it is very intense. So you need to be prepared to be like Monday to Friday and weekend challenges. They hit you with weekend challenges. You spend the whole week doing your 9 to 5 studying, and then they give you weekend challenges to work on. So I'd say it is very intense. You need to be prepared for that. And also, not everyone can afford to spend a lot of money on coding boot camps. So I'd say try and look into other avenues as well. Like I know there's things like Code First Girls, there's loads of initiatives that are out right now that are free or not as expensive as coding boot camps that you could do in the meantime, and you do it alongside your self-learning if going down a boot camp isn't the route for you. But I'd say in terms of finding the quickest route, a boot camp is pretty quick. Yeah, I wasn't patient. I just was like, I love this thing, like I need to be in there like now. So that's why I ended up going down the bootcamp route, but it's very, very hard. I'd say it's intense, like you're non-stop learning and you just have to be prepared for that. And for me, the only way that I was able to even get through all of that and feel confident enough to go into interviewing was because Makers were really good with the aftercare once you finish the course. Like the career team were really good in prepping you for interviews and helping you do technical interviews, practice like coding challenges and things like that. So that was really helpful. But without that, I don't think I would have been able to do the boot camp and then go out and think I'm ready to learn and jump into a job. So I'd say just be prepared to put in extra work.
Yeah, I agree with Ethel. I went to General Assembly, so I did 12 weeks as well. It was incredibly intense. I think I calculated that during those 12 weeks, I actually had 3 days off, and that was it. Apart from that, I was in it, you know, for 9 in the morning. I wasn't leaving until they shut the campus at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and I did that through. And on the last day, I cried, not because I was happy, but because I was just ready to be done by that point. But it was really intense, but I kind of looked at it a lot as kind of you would learn a language that you speak, right? Like you have to fully immerse yourself in it sometimes to be able to learn it really well. And a lot of these boot camps are really well, I'm not sure about the other ones, but I think they're quite good at giving you the kind of basics, really drilling down into them, and then you repeat them in different languages. So it gives you the skills of how you would work realistically as a developer as well. And they have a lot to give in terms of giving you real life production code kind of help, because a lot of the guys coming out doing computer science, they're great at the kind of theory and stuff, but they're not so great at putting it into practice. So boot camps can be great, and do look out there and see if there's scholarships. I know that Makers have done apprenticeships some summers. I went to General Assembly, I got my course fully paid for me by scholarship, which is called the Opportunity Fund. They're not so great at showing you about it, so you have to really drill in. Actually, when I applied for it, I actually had to call them up at the admissions in the UK, and they'd not even heard of it. So I had to get them to call the New York office to be able to find out whether or not it was real. And you know, it took a lot of work for me to get through to it. But there are initiatives out there. There's also Founders and Coders, which is a completely free one, where it's kind of a pay it forward kind of thing, where you go back and teach afterwards to help out other people on the course. So there are initiatives out there to help if you want to get into that.
Yeah, for anyone else who's interested in retraining, Sky do a Get Women into Tech course, which is what I did before transitioning. I think the BBC also do a similar software engineering course. Both are free.
I think
sorry,
I think you do one, I think.
Yeah. So there are free ones out there if you can't pay 10 grand for a boot camp. There are, as Ethel said, there are meetup events where you can learn to code. There's Code Bar. We have, if you're in the West Midlands, you have our free coding camp that we're going to be running. Yeah, so there are opportunities out there. There are a lot of courses that are free just because of this lockdown period. So do look online. Yeah, so we'll go into the next. Oh, and also we have an event on the 9th of June where we're going to be looking at specifically at changing careers into tech. So look out for that. So next question from our audience. From Monique, she says, I've been a data analyst for more than 15 years and I'm a mother of an 11 and a 10-year-old. Do you have any career advice for those who, for whatever reason, find it more and more difficult to keep at the forefront of tech, but do not want to leave the field? I guess, Talia, you've been in the game a long time.
Veteran. Yeah. I think the key for me was, if you don't want to be that hands-on, which is more the tech side of things. One thing I did is when I didn't want to be as hands-on as I would have been in the past in terms of actually doing the coding and manipulating the data. Business intelligence is a good transition from data for data analysts. So what that is, it's kind of, you bridge the gap between the rest of the organization, sales, marketing, everybody else, and the tech world. So you're kind of an interpreter, so to speak, and because you understand the technology, you can translate the art of what's possible with the business. So that's one thing. If you don't want to go hands-on, again, there's other sort of avenues within data analysis, like data visualization, which is more around, creating the visualization out of so somebody else would do the coding, you actually put together visualization in a visualization tool. So there's lots of opportunities that I think once you transition out of that hands-on tech role, but you still want to be involved in that sort of at that kind of data analysis and that side of things, there's lots of sort of bridges that you can do in between. And there's a lot of need for them at the moment. A lot of companies are hiring for that skill set.
I guess for the rest of you, how do you keep up with things going on in tech, or do you not? I know I don't really.
I feel like it's really easy to get overwhelmed because tech, there's so much to it. So like, if you feel like you want to try and keep up, you will be overwhelmed with this like different sort of technologies. So for me, I've just sort of tried to focus on, like, I work with JavaScript. I'm just trying to develop my skills in that area until I feel like I'm at a good stage. Then I can sort of move on to something else. But I'm still in my early days of my career, so I'm still trying to just sort of focus on the one thing that I need in my career. But it's really easy to get overwhelmed, like, with the technologies. So I'd say just try and focus on one thing at a time, and then maybe introduce other things along the way, but don't sort of overwhelm yourself with all of them at once.
Yeah,
I would say the same. Oh, sorry, Angela. I would definitely say the same thing. I think there was one time where I was jumping from JavaScript then to Ruby, and I was like, okay, I need to stop because I'm not getting anywhere here. So it's best just to really hone down on one thing and try your best and really commit to it. And then once you feel confident that you've got that skill, then you can introduce little bits. But I think trying to keep up with the ever-changing like languages it's just really just explode your brain. Me personally.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of keep within the remit of what I'm working with already. So, React came out and then GraphQL came out. So I kind of tried to work with those kind of things. I do look into kind of frameworks that I don't use as well, but I might just do really simple projects in them rather than reading too deep into it. So I might just do a to-do list or whatever, something really basic, just so I can kind of see where it's coming from, what it's doing. But apart from that, maybe read blogs when I get a chance, but I find it really boring sometimes to just about that kind of stuff. I know it seems like something that's really easy to do, but it's not always. I actually find it better through learning. So if I am gonna kind of do anything, I'll do really small projects. If I don't like it, then I'll leave it for now and I'll kind of concentrate on something else. It's about enjoyment as well. I don't want to just learn stuff for the sake of learning it. I'm not there to just be like everybody else and kind of like all the other men in the tech industry. Like, have you tried this and all that? I don't care unless I find a use for it. So if I find it good, I'll carry on, and if not, I leave it.
So we've got a question here. So you've had experience of homeschooling kids and working from home. Is it something that you would recommend for someone who would like to take that path in years to come? So I guess that's kind of more working from home full time. Is there any advice you would have? Anyone?
I'm struggling with this. Like, I don't really.
Is that
it's
working
not
from home and homeschooling?
Yeah, that's what it says. I guess.
I don't think I'm the best person to answer that.
It's hard. It's very hard. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to advise on that because I'm struggling. I'm still trying to figure it out.
So I guess let me frame it differently. Would you, like, after this coronavirus period is finished, would you be looking to go back to the office full time? Would you like to kind of change it up a bit? Like, what's your outlook on that?
With our workplace, initially it was you get 1 day to work from home. So I think I'd push for more days to work from home. The kids will be at school, but I'd still want to work from home because I think it would be nice. But homeschooling wise, and probably having time so that I can have time to maybe help with homework or do a bit more in the evenings, I think it would be good for that. But doing it full time, working remotely and homeschooling, I would too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm quite lucky because my homeschooling, my 12-year-old kind of schools himself now, and the 3-year-old isn't there yet. But I think one thing I've realized, what I've enjoyed more about working from home is not because I had a 2-hour commute each way, and getting those 4 hours back has been a godsend. But not only that, I think it's the stress. I don't think I realized how stressed out I was about getting to work on time and getting back on time. And there's that constant feeling of I'm going to be late whichever way I'm going. So I think that bit, I would work from home full time as long as I didn't have to homeschool anybody, then I'm all right.
So this question is actually for you, Talia. Have your children ever asked for you to give more time to them instead of the work? If yes, how did you deal with it?
I think I instilled in the kids very early on that I have my interests as well, and I'm an individual as well, and I think that gave them good kind of rules to grow up in themselves as well. So not only because I'm a yoga teacher as well, so another hat, but when every day I do my yoga, so they know not to disturb me for an hour. So apart from work and apart from me working once they've gone to bed, they know that that's my time, and I've done that since they were very, very little. Well, basically since they could understand it, and I think that's important because otherwise you will burn out. So I think it's just being very upfront to them. And what I've always done is if I promise to do something with them, or I won't just promise anything, but if I do promise to do something with them or spend some time with them or, do an activity with them, I will stick to that 100%. So I won't back out no matter what's burning around me. If I've said, this afternoon I've taken the day off, whatever it is, and we'll go and do this, I will stick to that no matter what's happening in the office, because I don't think they can live without me for a day. So that's the kind of rules I've put in place, or the boundaries I've put in place, quite strong boundaries as well. And I think that helps them understand that they need to have interest in themselves as well and do stuff for themselves. And it's kind of proven itself as they've gotten older, because now I've actually seen it. It was an experiment that could have gone horribly wrong. But I think as they've gotten older, they understand that and they see how important it is for me. I'm more than just mum. So yeah, that's how it's worked for me. Fingers crossed, it seems to be going okay.
Does anyone do anything similar or would like to?
It'll come.
I definitely would like to, but right now he's not there yet.
When they get to about 3.5, 4, then you start to instill that. But yeah.
So you have a question from one of our YouTube viewers is asking about mentorship and asking whether you have mentors and how did you come across them? Yes. Ethel, maybe, do you have a mentor?
I actually don't have a mentor. It's something I've thought about, and I definitely do want one, but I just need to take that step and start looking for a mentor. And also I want to like just make sure that it's a two-way relationship and it's not just take from the person. Like I need to be clear on what I want from it and what the person wants from it. So it's something I'm still trying to figure out, and I definitely will get one soon. So yeah, I'd like to hear everyone else's tips on how to look for a mentor.
I mean, I asked somebody, so in terms of my mentor, I found somebody that I worked with, or worked in the same company with, and somebody that I looked up to, but somebody that wasn't, because one thing I was thinking, I didn't want somebody that was so high up that it didn't seem achievable. I wanted somebody that it was relatable, so I could actually see myself getting to that point, and then when I got to that point, pick somebody higher up and so on. So I'm like not sticking with the same mentor for forever and a day. And I think actually going back to what you were saying, Ethel, because I've got a mentee, and you do get a lot out of it as a mentor anyway, because I think sometimes you forget how much you've actually achieved until you're telling somebody else about it and kind of guiding somebody else. So that is the sort of receiving side of it. But yeah, in terms of, I would suggest there's so many, just ask. You know, the most somebody can say is no, find somebody else. But I think most people will be more than happy to show you or to guide you in terms of how they made it, and make it relatable, somebody you can relate to, and somebody who's, you know, within the sort of path that you want to head down.
So Patricia has joined. I think she's just going to share her experiences. Patricia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, it's nice to see you here, all of you. It has been kind of very good to hear the experience of all of you, because it's kind of sometimes you feel you are on your own, and that you hear that it's kind of, oh, I'm not alone. It's good to hear that. And I have been kind of working towards get into tech. I think it's about like 3 years now. But the thing is, because I was studying something else, and then now I'm having more the opportunity to more get into it. But I think motherhood kind of delay a little bit. My experience was kind of always have that guilt feeling and not make the right balance. And it's nice to hear from Talia, from Ethel as well, like about this guilt feeling, and seems kind of is always there. But however, I liked when you said, Talia, embrace it, is how accept it, and it's kind of is how you need to deal with it, and it's part of motherhood. So I feel like to hear you guys is kind of like make this balance, to believe that we can make this balance. Right now, I'm kind of studying very hard, like waking 6 a.m. When Adana said, oh, we wake up early. So I kind of wake up 6 a.m. until the kids wake up to do Joe weeks. And then I can do this with them, have breakfast with them. And I'm having a lot of help from my husband now. He's looking after the kids. And so it's kind of, so I can get full on this. But still, those questions asking, am I going to be able to give time for them? Am I going to be able to be on time for them? So it's kind of, it's good to hear that. Talia, and also Talia, how did you deal being a yoga teacher, being so many things at the same time?
I think, yeah, I like to be busy. I think I'd drive my family mad if I wasn't. So yeah, that's my thing. But as I said, I'm very specific about how much time I dedicate to each thing. Otherwise, I'd drive myself mad. So and strict with it.
Okay, and that Ethel is kind of a well done as well, because it's like I met you from the coach Black Female, And then I have been seeing your journey, and then it's amazing how you progressed, and yeah, and then how you are dealing with that as well.
Thank you. Like, I met Patricia through Coding Black Female. So when I say like make the connection, it really helps. There's women that are in similar experiences to you that you can relate to, that you can reach out. Like, we catch up and we share our experiences and we advise each other on this whole journey, just because we have similarities, and she can advise me and I can advise her. So that's why I mentioned social media and your networks and meetups. Make the most of it, because it really does help and it keeps you grounded. And yeah, sometimes it's easy to just feel like you're alone in this, but it's nice to hear that other people are also experiencing things and you learn from how they handle it. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's true. And I have been asking Angela as well how she got into tech, how she deal with her course and everything. Yeah, it's very supportive. Yeah, thank you, all of you, and thank you for the Coding Black Female. It has been an amazing journey, and in a sense of like, when I was talking with Faith, I said, "Wow, being tech, I never heard a mother. I wasn't feeling comfortable to talk about motherhood in tech, and I don't know why." But having this space is kind of make you feel stronger. Yes, like I can be in tech. I'm a mom, but also I can be in tech. We can be in tech. Yeah, thank you, all of you.
And I must say, as well as all the questions coming in, there's a lot of people saying to our speakers that you're an inspiration and you're reducing their anxiety about motherhood and being in the industry. So just let you know. We've got a few minutes, so I'm just going to ask a question, which may be a bit difficult. So Mary says, I'm just getting into tech and I'm not yet a parent, but having a child in the next 5 years or so is a key goal of mine. Is there a more ideal time to launch into motherhood, i.e. early in your career or after a few years? Okay, Talia's shaking her head.
No. So I had my firstborn when I think I'd been in kind of the sort of tech role for about 3 years. And then I had my last child after I'd got to sort of the top. So I was head of in my role. And neither one was easy and neither one was ideal. So I think there is no ideal time. I think, as I said, it is, you're not going to ever be able to balance it. I think it's just determination. If being a mum or being a mother is a goal, then go for that. And if working in tech is a goal, go for that. I don't think you have to do one or the other, as all the ladies here have pretty much shown. But I think, yeah, there is no ideal time. It's hard work either way. So yeah, whenever the time feels right to you in particular, I think is the best thing to do.
Yes, Angela, you're also quite animated.
And just do it. Like, I was a junior when I got pregnant and I'd been with the company for 2 years and I really wanted to be mid-weight before I left for maternity. So I was due the promotion anyway, to be honest, in my but with like the amount of work that I'd done in such a small company, I was really pushing for that, and I was like a dog with a bone. I wouldn't let it go. I was determined to get that before I left. That was really important to me, just because I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to come back to that company. I didn't want to leave without that title if I wanted to move on somewhere else. But I don't believe there's ever a necessarily correct time to have a kid, and that's to do with, in any respect, whether that's to do with having enough money or anything else. The only thing that you can do is, to the best of your abilities, is, be in the right kind of relationship situation if you can, and even that doesn't always pan out. So try not to kind of plan too much about it. If you want both those things, then go for both of those things.
Great. So we're coming to the end of the session. So I guess just to wrap up from each of our speakers, what's kind of one nugget of advice or wisdom, just one that you would share with our audience, or maybe something you wish you would have known? Yeah, throwing you in the deep end.
I suppose for me, it's knowing what your passion is, whatever you're doing in tech. As I said, it's like anything, you're going to be dedicating a lot of time to learn it. find your passion for it. Don't do it just because it's the in thing to do, or it looks good on your CV. I think find your passion, and that's what will guarantee you a successful career, whatever that might look like. But yeah, it is that passion, I would definitely say. And it's tech is such a wide sector. You can be anything from cybersecurity all the way through to data analysis, like I was doing, or software development, or there's so many different areas within tech. So I think, yeah, it's just making sure that you find the area that suits you and what you're trying to achieve.
Who's next?
Like if you're in your
Sorry.
Okay, let's go with that. Angela.
It's all about coding at the beginning. Just kind of get used to having a baby or whatever. That will, if you have a genuine interest and passion in this, it will come back. It doesn't just dissolve from it. So just wait until you've got the time, and then fit it around wherever you can. Don't beat yourself up about not having too much to do. Don't beat yourself up about not posting anything to GitHub or pushing anything to GitHub for months on end. Like, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And you will be able to like get back on the wagon and kind of get on with it in the end.
How about you, Adana?
I would just say that it's going to be hard, and once you know that from the get-go, I think it just makes you more focused to not fall off at the first sign of difficulty, because it does take a lot of time and effort and patience. But know that you'll eventually get there if you want to get there. So just keep being strong.
And Ethel, you've got the last word.
I think for me, I was really hard on myself in the beginning, and it was so easy to compare myself, especially being in a bootcamp setting, to your cohort and others who were like just getting it just like that, and it take me like forever. I felt like for me things didn't properly click until like week 6 of the bootcamp. And looking back, I would say to myself, like, don't be so hard on yourself. You're making some sort of progress, and that's good enough. And everyone's journey is different. You'll get there, but you'll get there differently. And it's just more about you having the passion for it. And as long as you're interested in what you're doing, you'll get to the end goal eventually. So yeah, that's what I'd say, is that don't be so hard on yourself. If there's days where you can't commit to learning, don't beat yourself up about it. Like, you don't always have to sit at a computer and be coding away. There's apps like that let you do it on your commute. Solo Learn, I used to use that on a train if I couldn't code on the laptop at home or whatever. But at the end, I'm still dedicating time where I can, and that's still something. So don't beat yourself up about it.
Amazing. So I've just, by my head, there's some other resources that I've just put there. So there's Mama Code, which Adana runs, which is a community for mums learning to code. There's Tech Mums and Digital Mums, which provide training courses specifically for mothers. And then there's, the Dope Black Mums and the Motherhood Group, which are kind of motherhood groups specifically for Black women. So you can also check those out. I just want to say thank you so much to all of our speakers. It's been a really fruitful and helpful discussion. Thank you to Charlene for assisting me today, and just thank you for everyone attending. This video will be on YouTube to refer back to. We'll also put it on our podcast. So yes, our next event is on the 9th of June, where we're going to be talking about career changing into tech. So hopefully that will be of use to some of you as well. So thank you, everyone.